The sea doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care that you're tired or lonely or counting down the hours until you see land again. It just keeps moving, endless, cold, and indifferent. And on top of it, in the middle of nowhere, stands a metal city, a place where hundreds of workers fight not only the elements, but their own minds. This isn't a story about oil, it's a story about isolation, and what happens when people are cut off from the world for too long. Somewhere out there, far beyond the shore, men and women live for weeks on platforms built for one purpose: to pull fuel from beneath the ocean floor. But the real cost of this work isn't just measured in barrels or dollars. It's measured in fatigue, in silence, in the slow erosion of mental health that no safety drill can fix. And in this video, we're going to open that door. We'll dive deep into what really happens to the human mind when escape is impossible, when the horizon never changes, and when home is just a memory on the other side of the ocean. If that sounds like a story you shouldn't miss, make sure you subscribe, because what you're about to hear might change the way you see one of the world's most hidden jobs. They call it the rig, but it's more like a floating factory, hundreds of feet of steel anchored in the middle of the sea. It hums, it shakes, it never sleeps. The noise is constant. Machinery, pumps, alarms, a mechanical heartbeat that reminds everyone that this place is alive. Workers arrive by helicopter or boat, carrying just a small bag. Once you land, that's it. You're here. Your world has shrunk to a few decks, a few hallways, a few faces. Everywhere you look, steel. The ocean stretching in every direction. No towns, no trees, no roads. Just sky and sea. Every person on board is here for one reason: to work. Shifts run 12 hours, sometimes longer, with the next 12 meant for rest, if you can call it that. Even rest happens in shared cabins the size of walk-in closets. Privacy is a luxury. Sleep comes in bursts, interrupted by the hum of turbines or the slam of metal doors. You don't go home after your shift. You just walk a few meters and lie down in the same air you've been breathing all day. And that's where it starts, the slow squeeze of isolation. Most offshore workers start strong. The first few days are busy, even exciting. You're focused on the job, the adrenaline, the teamwork. But as the days stretch on, something shifts. The ocean never changes. The rig looks the same. Every meal tastes familiar. The people you see are the same ones you saw yesterday, and will see tomorrow. There's no fresh air that smells like earth. No birds, no cars, no signs of ordinary life. The mind starts to crave variety. And when it doesn't get it, it turns inward. Some call it rig fever. That moment when you start feeling trapped in your own thoughts. Small things become big. Conversations turn sharp. The walls seem to close in, even when you're standing outside. It's not dramatic at first. It's subtle. A kind of restlessness that builds, a tension that never quite leaves your chest. And before long, your body's there. But your mind is somewhere else entirely. The physical work is hard. Heavy lifting, long hours, dangerous machinery. But it's the psychological strain that quietly does the most damage. Many rig workers develop anxiety, stress, even depression. They struggle to sleep, or sleep too much. Some start to feel detached, like their life back home is just a dream they once had. You miss birthdays, you miss your kids' first steps. You call your partner, but the signal keeps breaking. You hear laughter on the other end, then static, then silence. And that silence sticks. For some, the hardest part isn't the work. It's the waiting. Waiting for the helicopter to come back. Waiting for the calendar to move. Waiting to feel normal again. There's an unspoken rule on rigs. You don't show weakness. You don't complain. You keep it together, no matter what's going on inside your head. It's a culture built on toughness. And that's exactly why so many struggle in silence. Think about what isolation does to the mind, then add danger to the mix. One mistake out here could cost lives. That pressure never switches off. 12-hour shifts blur together. You wake up in the dark. You work in the dark. The line between days disappears. Fatigue eats at concentration. Concentration keeps you alive. So every tired moment is a risk. And still, people push through. Because that's the job. You're surrounded by people, yet it's easy to feel completely alone. The rig isn't a community, it's a cycle. Teams rotate in and out, strangers share cabins, and just as you start to know someone, they're flying home while you stay behind. There's also the cultural gap. Rigs host workers from all over the world, different languages, traditions, ways of coping. Sometimes that creates bonds, other times misunderstandings. Either way, you learn quickly that connection out here is fragile. Combine all that, isolation, exhaustion, pressure, and you have a recipe for burnout. And burnout on a rig isn't just emotional, it's physical. It shows up in mistakes, near misses, and safety slips that could turn deadly. Now, picture this, not in a dramatic, cinematic way, but the way it really happens. A worker finishes a night shift. He sits in the canteen, staring at his food, no appetite. He hasn't spoken to his family in a week. The Wi-Fi was down again. His roommate snores all night. He's running on caffeine and adrenaline. He's exhausted, but sleep won't come. He goes to work anyway. He tightens bolts, checks gauges, does what he's done 1,000 times. But his mind is foggy, his patience thin. A tiny mistake here could set off a chain reaction, yet nobody around him knows he's struggling because nobody asks. That's the thing, mental health offshore is invisible. It doesn't leave bruises or scars. It hides behind a helmet and safety glasses. And that makes it easier for everyone, including the worker himself, to pretend it's not there, until it is. People adapt. They find ways to survive the mental grind. Some lift weights in the small gym tucked in the corner of the rig. Others read, draw, watch the same movies over and over. There's humor too. Dark, dry humor. Workers joke about the endless sea, the bad coffee, the weird smell in the sleeping quarters. That humor is medicine, a shield against monotony. Some form tight little families with crewmates, shared routines, inside jokes, nightly rituals. Those friendships can mean everything. But not all coping mechanisms are healthy. Some workers drink heavily when they get home. Others go numb, disconnecting emotionally just to reset. Some start depending on substances to dull the noise. These coping methods aren't about weakness, they're about survival. Because the truth is, even the strongest minds crack when the world shrinks to steel walls and gray water. Leaving the rig should feel like freedom. But for many, it's the most disorienting part. When you've been away for weeks, normal life feels strange. The silence of a room feels too quiet. The sight of trees, cars, and people rushing by feels overwhelming. Your family wants to celebrate, but you're still mentally offshore. You're tired, detached, maybe irritable. You can't quite switch off the mindset of constant alertness. It's like coming back from a war that nobody saw you fight. Then, just as you start adjusting, it's time to go back again. The suitcase goes on the floor. The helicopter is waiting. This cycle repeats, tour after tour, until the body and mind can't tell which world feels more real. Here's the part most people don't talk about. What happens years down the line? Many ex-rig workers say they still wake up to phantom noises. The hum of engines, the clang of metal, the buzz of fluorescent lights. Some struggle with long-term sleep problems, depression, or anxiety that follows them home. Others describe the emotional distance that builds up over time, marriages strained, friendships fading, kids growing up without really knowing them. When you spend so much of your life isolated, the mind adjusts in strange ways. You become comfortable with distance. And when you return to normal life, closeness can feel foreign. That's the quiet price of a career offshore. The emotional debt that collects, slowly and silently. For a long time, mental health wasn't part of the safety checklist. Companies focused on physical risks, explosions, injuries, equipment failures. But slowly, that's changing. Now, some operators are starting to treat mental health like any other hazard. They're offering counseling through video calls, shortening rotations, adding fitness and recreation programs, and training supervisors to notice when someone's struggling. But progress is slow. The culture of toughness runs deep. Many still think asking for help means you can't handle the job. And until that changes, many workers will keep suffering in silence. Still, awareness is growing. Younger generations of workers are more open about mental health. Support groups are forming. Some companies are even creating on-rig well-being coaches, people whose entire job is to listen. It's a start, but it's not enough. Because no matter how advanced the safety gear gets, no matter how strong the rig is built, it's only as safe as the people holding it together. Every barrel of oil pulled from the ocean has an invisible story behind it. A worker far from home, counting the days, fighting sleep, fighting loneliness, fighting himself. When we think of offshore work, we imagine danger in explosions or storms. But the real danger is quieter. It's in the silence after midnight, the empty stare at the horizon, the creeping thought that you don't quite belong anywhere anymore. These workers aren't just employees, they're people carrying a burden the world rarely sees. They keep our lights on, our cars moving, our economies running. Yet, they do it while sacrificing their connection to the world they're powering. If we want to talk about energy, we have to talk about empathy. Because the mental health of offshore workers isn't a side issue. It's the foundation of everything that happens out there. The sea is unforgiving. It tests the limits of machines, but even more, it tests the limits of the human mind. Out there, the horizon looks endless, but the world feels small. You learn patience, you learn silence, and you learn how fragile the mind can be when it's trapped between sky and water. Maybe one day, the oil industry will take mental health as seriously as it takes fire safety or engineering. Maybe one day, the toughest job on Earth won't mean carrying invisible wounds. Until then, the rigs keep turning, the ocean keeps moving, and somewhere out there, someone is staring at that endless blue, wondering how much longer they can take it. The psychological toll of isolation on oil rigs isn't just a footnote in the story of energy, it's the beating heart of it. Behind the drills and machinery are people, real people, living with anxiety, fatigue, loneliness, and disconnection that the world rarely sees. The physical danger is obvious. The mental danger hides behind forced smiles and long silences. But both can be equally deadly. The next time you see footage of an offshore rig or read headlines about oil production, remember this. There's a hidden world above those waves. A world where the battle isn't just against the elements, it's against the emptiness inside. If you want to uncover more hidden human stories like this one, hit subscribe now. And check out the next video on your screen, where we dive into what families back home go through while their loved ones face the sea.